Greetings. My name is Eric Postma, assistant publisher and editor extraordinaire for Grail Quest Books. With me today is Reverend Christopher Thoma, pastor, author, and whiskey aficionado. We are here today mostly to talk about some of his new books, how we arrived at Grail Quest Books, and what pastor, author, and whiskey aficionado. Excuse me, I hear myself over in the background. We are here today mostly to talk about I've got to turn that off. All right, there we go. Technical difficulties, growing pains. All right, so on that note, Reverend Thoma, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on with you.
Well, we're happy to have you here. Let's see. Well, let's just get right into it with talking about a couple of your books. Now, a couple of the biggest ones are 10 Ways to Kill a Pastor and the Angels portion, volumes 1 and now 2, actually. Well, let's get started. Actually, 10 Ways to Kill a Pastor. This is a collection of short stories meant to illustrate some of the problems that you and I'm sure many other pastors that you've met and haven't met have to deal with on, I assume, a fairly frequent basis. What was some of the inspiration for this book, and not to mention some of the types of problems that you've either run across yourself or seen others run across?
Well, I've been thinking about writing this book for a long time, but as I thought about it, it just took forever in the sense of thinking it, of seeing it come to fruition. But when I started writing it, it only took 5 days. I mean, I was done with it in 5 days. The whole manuscript, the introduction, every one of the narratives, and the conclusion. It came way too easily. But essentially what it is, it's a constant gathering of different scenarios that they're not necessarily particular to me, even though I'm living out in them in ways. But I think they're ones that most pastors deal with in some way, shape, or another. And then also, I have to say, since the book's been out, I've been contacted by clergy from all over the country, from all kinds of different denominations, asking, saying things like, it's like you've been in my life the last, 10 years. It's like you've been watching everything happening. They're just things that people experience as pastors, as clergymen, but don't necessarily share. So it's kind of an insight into that. It's kind of an opportunity to see behind the curtain.
I see. I noticed a lot of the problems involve whether it's being undermined by the board, so to speak, problems with, stereotypical preacher's kids type issues. I mean, even reading through it, it's like, yeah, I can see a lot of this, even though I'm not a pastor or any such myself. But even just as a father, I'm looking at this and I can relate to some of these issues and how they would definitely affect you.
Yeah, some of the simple things, like you're talking about family in general. The very first chapter is a chapter that tells a story about a pastor and his wife, and the struggles that she goes through, simply being referred to as the pastor's wife. Never necessarily being identified as the woman that she is with the gifts that she's got, and that's a struggle, I would imagine. But then also you talk about a pastor's kid. Pastors' kids in general are, well, I shouldn't say in general, but there are times where they're held to a higher standard than maybe the kids around them, and they experience struggles that are particular to being a pastor's kid. And each one of these stories each one's fictional. Each one is about a different pastor in a different place in a different town. It's not necessarily the same guy over and over again, but they're all fictional narratives, but they're all narratives that are telling a story, that are relating. And there's a lot of subplots in each one of them too, where places where you can intentionally, you can sit and you can dig in and you can study them and find other things to talk about other than what the flat storyline is.
Now, was it the desire to avoid the flatness, the sort of Pat just talking to the audience, that actually prompted you to tackle this in the form of a narrative as opposed to just going, well, here's some of the problems that I've seen as a pastor, and this is how I deal with them?
Well, I think it's better. I'm a storyteller. I mean, if you read my books, all of my books are storytelling type volumes. Other than the the systematics things I've written, like the homiletics book and the kids and worship books that I've done. But the fun stuff that I write, the stuff that really I think pulls out everything that's inside of me in a very deep way, is when I'm doing it in a story form. And personally, I think you really are able to engage a reader when you can draw them in to the story itself, and not only make them an observer, but make them a participant in a sense, so that they can kind of walk along the way. That more is going to sink in, more is going to be remembered, and God willing, the people who are watching this as a participant will see themselves either as the abuser or the abused in that text, and be able to change or be able to make changes in their lives to handle it in a godly way.
Now, you mentioned that. How do you personally deal with some of these issues, whichever ones you may have experienced yourself, without obviously getting into too much detail? But
well, this is for all you pietists. I drink whiskey, and then I write about whiskey. That's how I do. Oh yeah, and prayer.
And prayer, of course. Yeah, I would expect that, but yes, and the whiskey, that is a fantastic lead-in to your other, perhaps most well-known work, The Angel's Portion, a collection of whiskey, specifically, very specifically, Scotch reviews, and not just any Scotch. You're into the good stuff.
Yes, I am. I like that's my downfall, unfortunately. So.
It is an excellent. It's a good downfall. If that's what's going to fall, you might as well fall with something good, right?
I think for every 10 to 15 books I sell, I can actually afford to buy a bottle.
Well, that's fantastic. So your habit is feeding your habit.
Well, more or less, yeah. So now, Volume 1 is pretty much all Scotch. Volume 2 is anything and everything, which is why I've got copies here. Which is why, unfortunately, it's almost as thick as my Bible, which I'm proud, but not sure.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, okay, I've got, what first got you into whiskey, specifically KY whiskey?
Well,
the way I said that doesn't sound quite right. It's whiskey without an E.
Yeah. I'm glad you. Well, I was not a whiskey drinker. I'm Lutheran. I'm a beer drinker, So when I was over, I used to do some teaching over in Russia and Lithuania and places like that. Well, one time when I was coming back, I was passing through London and stopped at a whiskey shop and just walked in just to check it out. And the proprietor was so kind. He said, well, do you like whiskey? And I said, no, I'm more of a beer guy. And he said, well, you haven't tried the right kind. And so he led me around the store, around the little shop, and let me try little bits of whiskey here and there. And I fell in love with it. I couldn't believe what I was missing. And these were all Scotch whiskeys. So I ended up walking out of there with a pretty nice bottle. And ever since then, I've studied it. I've enjoyed it. I've saved up to buy it. And then a couple of years ago, my wife encouraged me to start a blog. So I did. I started writing about it, started reviewing, and it's all downhill from there. I mean, it's just really taken off in a sense. So people like to read it. I have fun writing about it, and it's good therapy.
And you say taken off. I noticed in doing a little bit of research for this interview that you were profiled by the Washington Times, as a matter of fact, through your blog.
Yeah, I've surprisingly enough, I mean, I've gotten a lot of real high-profile media coverage, which is nice. I mean, this one's a struggle for the pietists again, but like I've had an article written about me on Playboy, in Playboy.
Really? I did not know that.
I've done radio interviews across the country, and I've had reviews and articles published in international and national publications, and I've got folks calling me now to value whiskeys for them. I do a lot of whiskey valuation. So if someone's got an antique whiskey, I've done enough research on them, and I have friends at the archives in England now too, where I can get a lot of really good information. I can date whiskeys for people.
Wow.
In fact, that's one way that I've acquired other things in my life, was by doing that kind of stuff. I've gotten, I get referred to by folks. It's really kind of a thing where I'm really happy to be doing it. It's a lot of fun, and I'm connecting with a lot of people, and it's just an area of one's life someone would never expect to find a clergyman digging in, but you know, it's fun. It's fun, and I like it. So,
well, that's fantastic. I'm sure all of that attention doesn't, you know, help the book sales at all.
No, not at all.
No.
Christmas helps.
Now, why? There's something you address in the first volume is why the title Angel's Portion. For those of us who are total newbies to the world of whiskey, what on earth does that mean? And like you describe in your reviews and everything, you always go through the nose, the palate, the finish. For those who have no idea what that means, what does that mean?
Well, first off, the Angel's Portion, or the Angel's Share, I mean, you can say it one way or another, is the portion of the whiskey that evaporates while it's in the barrel. So, and sometimes you can lose up to 40% of the content of the barrel the longer it ages. So that's the Angel's Portion. You know, the angels are taking their share. The title Angel's Portion just seemed to fit because technically in the Greek, angel means messenger. Pastors in the New Testament are often referred to as these messengers, and I thought, well, you know, here I am, I'm a messenger, so the Angel's Portion. But now you talk about the reviews. Typically, when you're dealing with a whiskey, you're trying for the nose, the palate, the finish, like you said. So the nose, you know, what are the things you're smelling? You know, what are the things you're getting wafting out of it? Are you sensing the age? Are you sensing wood spice? Are you sensing the various finishes? All those kinds of things. But the same goes for the palate. In fact, the nose and the palate are very close. The palate essentially is what you're tasting. What are the things that you taste? Are you tasting honey? Do you get some caramel out of it? Are you tasting dried fruits or marmalade or something like that? But then the finish carries that on a little bit more. After you swallow, what sensations do you have? What are you experiencing in your mouth after that? Are you sensing some of those things, or do you feel like you just drank gasoline? You know what? You know what's going on. So, and I write my narratives. I write my stories in a way that always leads to those, so that they can be kind of the finish for the story.
Very good. Now, again, an excellent lead-in. You don't just write, you know, straight bland reviews of, well, this is what the whiskey is like, and you should really go try it, or not, as the case may be. You always tell it in the form of a story. In fact, your book, Angel's Portion, Volume 1, starts out with I believe it was the preface, from none other than Lord Vader himself, just as a way of introducing the reader to, this is not your typical whiskey review.
Yeah, that's right. Well, again, you know, if you go, that's one of the things that's really taken off. There's really two kinds of hooks to what I'm doing. Obviously, the fact that I'm a pastor, no one expects to have that, and whiskey seem connected. But then the fact that I don't do what everybody else is doing. You can go anywhere on the internet and you can type in the title of a scotch or a bourbon or something, and you can find the basic write-up on it. I don't want to do that. And again, going back to what I said about 10 Ways to Kill a Pastor, you're more engaged in what's going on if you become a participant in the story. So I write my narratives in a way that's trying to draw folks in. So if you go to the liquor store now and you walk up to the shelves and you're looking around and you see one and you say, you know, that's the one that Lord Vader likes. and here's what he liked about it. I'm going to try that. Or here, this one over here, this is the one that, you know, I got to avoid that one because that one smells like lead paint chips that have fallen off of Chernobyl's walls. I need to watch out for that one. But the stories help you remember. The stories, they kind of carry you along, so you don't forget that stuff. So
one in particular that caught my attention, I was reading through some of the reviews, was the one for the. Please feel free to correct my pronunciation. I think it was the Balvenie, the Caribbean cask.
Caribbean cask. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know why, but that review in particular, with the sailors defending the casks lest they be tossed overboard.
Yeah.
Without at least being properly sampled.
Well, you see, that's, again, it's a story, and it sounds like it kind of draws you in, and you remember that because of the whole storm, the ship's going down. What's their most prized possession? It's that whiskey. And they love it so much. They love it so much that when they're picked up by another vessel and rescued, they jump back overboard again because they want that whiskey. So, but again, it's something that people will remember. They'll remember the Caribbean cask and Balvenie and know that.
Yep, like I said, that was in fact the last line of it. It's that good. Right after they jump back off the boat with the casks, I was like, all right, that's one I've got to try to keep my eye out for.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now, I was just before getting into this interview with you, I was reading another one, and it revealed another interesting, not typical pastor hobby that you have. And again, I can't recall how to properly pronounce a whiskey, but it was you go into discussing your other hobby of shooting pistols, actually.
Yeah, Achintashen was the whiskey. I think the 18, maybe, the Achintashen.
Yes, it was the 18, actually.
Yeah, I wrote about. I forget what connection I made there, but it's. I wrote about my time with my Sig Sauer. Yeah, and how every one of the bullets in that gun pretty much jump out and ask you where you want them to go. So it's a very accurate weapon.
Need to go up.
No.
Excuse me, just a moment. I have a visitor.
This is good stuff.
Hey, Munchkin, you need to scoot.
We are still looking at the other. I don't want to go away.
Okay, well, you go get in your bed, then you lay down. All right, off you go, Munchkin. Well, excuse me, everybody watching. That's one of the joys of fatherhood and the perils of live broadcasting.
Yeah. That's good.
If that's the worst thing that happens, that my 5-year-old comes down to say hi, I think we're doing all right. Oh goodness, we were discussing your time with your Sig Sauer and the Achintashen. Did I get that right?
Yep.
All right. Now, has shooting been another thing that you acquired later in life, or is that something that you always had, or?
No, it's late in life. Yeah, within the last 4 or 5 years. So a friend of mine who works for the Michigan State Police ended up selling me his former service pistol, and that's the Sig Sauer. And I'd been talking about getting a concealed carry permit for a while, and eventually did, and that was the gun I was carrying for a while. I've since gotten a baby Glock that I keep not far away too, and with the condition of the world these days, it's a good thing, I think. So,
why not, right?
Very conservative in that way. So,
running back to and the connection, which I remember because I just read it, was you broke open that bottle to celebrate a job well done.
Oh yeah. Well, did you see the photo that
I did.
I managed to shoot it. I actually shot a smiley face, right?
That was impressive. I can't do that.
Why not open a bottle of nice whiskey after that? What else would you do?
Absolutely. Now, speaking of nice whiskey, what's your favorite whiskey that you've reviewed?
My favorite.
If you can pick a favorite.
I've reviewed hundreds. I have some favorites. I like the Balvenies. Those are really good whiskeys. The 30-year is a phenomenal whiskey.
Oh, my.
The Macallan's, the rare cask, is a very good bottle. Glendronach, if you ever find a Glendronach 21, that's a wonderful whiskey. I really like some of the very smoky ones. I like the Lafroig 10. I don't know. I like the Ardbegs. I like those. I like the Corribrican is one that's really good, very thick and heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I like. I know there's a lot that I like. I'm moving into bourbons now too. A good probably half of Angel's Portion 2 are bourbons.
Nice.
I like the Bullet bourbons. Those are not bad.
I have to agree. I actually I drink Bullet myself, and I like it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. The Frontier Whiskey one is the one that actually sold me on continuing to try bourbons.
Okay.
I like Basil Hayden's. Basil Hayden, I like that. I don't know. It's such a vast array of things that you can choose from these days, and there's always something new. So
there is. I after reading a good portion of Angel's Portion, I went to probably the best party store in my local area, just to see what they have as far as what you reviewed, and it was a pretty good chunk actually.
Good.
Just looking through it, I was like, wow, I would not be able to get through most of these in my lifetime, probably. Both through time and cost.
Well, it hurts me, but I have to suffer through these for you, so that you don't have to do it.
I thank you. I do.
I know.
Now, what are some of the other things that you review in Angel's Portion 2?
Well, I don't know. It's so thick. I'd have to go back and remember everything.
I mean, do you stick with do you stick with spirits? Do you review some beer in there?
No, I don't. I'm not going to be doing beer or anything like that. I just wrote a review not that long ago, which was based on a conversation I had with a buddy who said, why don't you start reviewing beer? I don't want to review beer. While I'll drink beer every now and then, I just don't prefer it anymore. It doesn't have what I need.
You've been led away from the.
I have. I'm more of a Protestant Presbyterian now than the blood of the Scots is flowing in my veins. Not theologically, but booze-wise. I write about Scotch is a pretty much biggest portion of it. Bourbons.
Mm-hmm.
Are the next. American whiskeys are the next big portion. There's Canadian whiskey in there. There's Japanese whiskeys. There's a lot of good Japanese whiskeys.
Huh.
And then there's a couple of other things. Like I write about a particular rum. I write about a Michigan whiskey or a Michigan brandy that's in there. Various things. If it crosses my path, it's fair game for getting a review.
Okay. For my own personal interest, is what's the name of that Michigan brandy? Since I'm also in Michigan.
Cinq Accept is the name of it. I think I sent you the book. Did I send you the book?
Yes.
Did I?
Yeah. I'll have to look it up because I haven't heard of that off the top of my head. But
you get it in Traverse City. It's a Traverse City whiskey.
Oh, okay.
But I know if you look it up, you can run into it. It's on page Chateau Chantal. It's 579, page 579.
That's actually where where my wife and I did our honeymoon.
Well, yeah, that's where you can pick it up. A friend of mine who has family there bought it for me as a gift and brought it back, and it's not too bad. I'm not a brandy fan, but it's not too bad. So.
All right. Well, I'm definitely going to have to look it up and check that out. One, you bothered to review it. Two, clearly we'll have some sentimental connection.
Oh yeah.
Well, before we leave the world,
what do you have in that jar?
This is not anything that at least that I'm aware that you've reviewed. This is just a little Maker's Mark.
I reviewed Maker's Mark.
Oh, you did? Okay, great.
I'm so sorry that's what you're drinking.
There are others that I prefer, but
make sure you review about that one. Okay.
I haven't. Well, that was actually I was going to ask. What's your least favorite?
My least favorite everybody who knows Angel's Portion knows Scoresby has been squeezed from the veins of the devil himself. Scoresby.
Yeah, you derided that a few times.
Oh, I do. Yeah, it makes me crazy too, because when it comes to the site, when I look at my stats every now and then, the most popular posts at Angel's Portion is the Scoresby one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I get so many contact messages about it because I spend the first. It's way longer than anyone would ever expect it to be. It's practically a paper I could give at a conference probably. But it starts off as a philosophy paper essentially, and then leads into why you just don't want to drink that stuff. You just don't want to.
I can't wait to get to that one just because it sounds like fun.
It's ungodly.
I don't mean trying the whiskey. I mean reading your.
Yeah. Well, have fun with that one, because that'll keep you awake at night.
Excellent. All right, now I'm curious. Given your, given all of the attention that you've gotten for your work and everything, what brought you to Grail Quest Books?
Well, first of all, dealing with my agent.
Mm-hmm.
My agent didn't make any connections there, but I saw my screen's doing stuff now too. I saw Josh on Facebook, saw what he was trying to do, and I personally would love to see a publishing group like Grail Quest Books take off. I mean, more so than it already is. I would love. I want to support. I want to see that kind of stuff happen. So even in the midst of shopping manuscripts, I just kind of threw it out there for Josh and Cassandra to see, would you guys be interested in partnering up on this? And they were so welcoming. They appreciated the books, and there's not a better group of folks to be working with. I think personally, they're wonderful folks, and they deserve anything that comes their way that they can get out and get into the hands of people to read. So,
well, I'm definitely not going to argue with any of that. One, because I'm part of it. Two, because, well, I've been working with Josh and Cass for many, many years now.
Okay.
You. So, you know what? Hold on. She seems insistent on getting in on this, so hold on just a minute.
What's your name?
Claire?
What is it, Claire?
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you, Claire. Do you like
my this is my goofy little 5-year-old. Well, not quite 5. You're not quite 5 yet, are you?
I see your dad has all the Star Wars stuff on the back of his shelf. Are you a Star Wars fan?
You like Star Wars? No.
No, you don't? Oh, wow. You're kind of weird then, aren't you?
Yeah, that's true. You know what, you need to get off to bed.
Is it bedtime?
No, it's been bedtime.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. What, sweetheart?
My sister doesn't let me sit.
Well, tell your sister that your dad said that she needs to let you sleep. All right? Okay. Good night.
Hi, Claire.
Love you, Munchkin. Say bye.
Bye.
Bye. That's
She's a bit of a goofball.
Oh, that's sweet. She's awesome.
She's about the way her hair is a pretty good representation of her personality.
Oh, that's great. She's got that red hair. That's great.
Oh yeah. Well, most of my kids have got red hair.
Okay.
All but one of them has got at least a little bit. I'm not sure what happened with that one, but in any case. Now, what else? You didn't just bring, Whiskey and Ways to Kill a Pastor to Grail Quest Books. What are some of the other books that you've got on offer? I was scrolling through, and there are actually many.
We've got, I've got the Homiletical Canvas, Poetry and Service to Preaching. That's a homiletics book. And it actually, that book actually, I try to teach how to write sermons with a narrative flair. I'm using poetry as an influence.
Okay.
But then I also have, what's the other one? Feeding the Lambs,
Mm-hmm.
a worship primer for teachers of children. That one Grail Quest is carrying too. And that's a volume that teaches the importance of liturgy, the importance of the divine service, of parents raising the kids up in that as the better way, better than contemporary worship, better than those kinds of things. Let's see, what else is there? I think that may be it. And there's
I'm actually scrolling and seeing if you missed. Yep, I think you pretty much got them all. But what's next?
Well, what's next? Actually, Dr. Rick Stuckwish. He's a friend of mine from back in the day. We've reconnected on Facebook these days. But after I finished 10 Ways to Kill a Pastor, Dr. David Scare wrote a very nice piece on the back of the cover and for inside for it. He suggested that I ask Rick to do a Bible study for the book, to write up a study guide, and he agreed. And I just actually talked with him today some more about it, and he's going to get started on working on that probably sometime between Epiphany and Ash Wednesday. Should have some sort of a manuscript together, and he's going to be giving that over to Grail Quest to publish.
Oh, well, fantastic.
Yeah. And he'll be a good. He's a great guy, real solid theologian. Would be a wonderful bit of muscle to add to Grail Quest's author lineup, I think too.
Well, it's definitely been a lineup that's been getting more muscular, especially in the last year, and I think honestly, I think that's actually a pretty good note to wrap up on. Actually, is that you're just one of now many that have recently come on board and joined the Grail Quest Books family. And for all of those watching at home, there's going to be a lot of great stuff coming up in the next year. And we're not done for this year yet either. There's another one in the works that should be out in the next week or so, called The Gift and the Defender from actually one of
Pastor Bramwell.
Yes. Now, before we leave, of course, where can people find you at?
They can go to angelsportion.com. They can find it there. And actually, I just started another blog today dedicated to talking about type 1 diabetes and my anger with God. I know that sounds bad, but my anger with God in allowing this with my daughter. So it's kind of a journey through hammering out the storms of life. So just started that actually today. It's already getting a pretty good following, and I'm writing there. And that is, since it's brand new, give me a second. Type 1 confessional .wordpress.com. Type
1 confessional.
Number 1 confessional .wordpress.com.
Okay, great. Yeah, and that's, well, hey, if Job can do it, so can you.
Well, gosh, Job had it worse.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to try to get into a contest with him.
And if folks want to connect with me in some way, they can go to angelsportion.com, or they can go to the OurSaviorHeartland.org website. That's our church. That's my church website. So they can contact me.
And where is your church located?
I'm serving at Our Savior in Heartland, Michigan. So just north of Ann Arbor by about 25, 30 miles, south of Flint by about 30 miles.
Excellent. And for everyone watching at home, if you are interested in purchasing Reverend Thoma's books, or if you're interested in Grail Quest books in general, you can go to grailquestbooks.wordpress.com and find out about some of our other authors and other books that are on offer, and also be aware of when The Gift and the Defender is released. And myself, you can find at gingermaneditorial.wordpress.com, where I offer a number of editorial services from proofreading to beta reading, copy editing, and even a little bit of ghostwriting from time to time. And on that note, Reverend Thoma, thank you so much for coming on tonight. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I hope we can have you back on in the future to profile some of your other works.
Anytime, anytime.
All right, so for everyone watching, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next one. We'll be doing a number of these videos in the coming weeks and months, talking to our other authors and contributors at Grail Quest Books. Until then, we'll see you next time.
Right. Thank you.